If you follow the channel, you would have seen that I released a video a few weeks ago on the announcement of the 2025 Honda NT1100, and I looked at what was coming in terms of changes. Now I'm here in sunny southern Spain and I get a chance to ride it and see if those changes have made a big impact to the bike. Okay, so as I said in the intro, I've already kind of done a preview for this bike, so I'll put a link on the screen if you want to go and have a look at that. Subsequently, I don't really want to put too much in the way of stats through this video, so I'm going to concentrate on those changes, the screen, the IMU, the styling, the comfort, all that sort of stuff, and we'll keep it a bit more relaxed. So less stat number heavy, more riding experience. Omotenashi was a word we were introduced to during the briefing by members of the R&D team from Japan. It's the concept of hospitality or mindfulness. There's 4 core values: anticipating the needs of your guests, serving others without expecting anything in return, giving from the heart, and paying close attention to the details of a guest's experience. The concept of omotenashi is very much reflected in the design of the new NT1100. The previous model was the best-selling tourer in Europe for 2023, and Honda wanted to build on that by offering an even more enjoyable performance in all situations, next-generation styling, and more practicality and comfort. Well, that's a nice start to the day, having left snowy England yesterday. Nice to be on some dry roads with sunshine. It's nice and warm. So I'm riding the DCT bike. I think actually all of the bikes are DCT. There's a few with accessories on here, top boxes and bits and pieces. So just for a little bit of clarity, there are 3 model options in the range. You have the manual transmission bike, which retails at $12,679, the DCT version at $13,679, and the DCT electronic suspension bike, which is what I'm riding, at £14,099. The electronic suspension is only available on the DCT model, not the manual transmission version. The things I want to talk about is the screen and the adjuster for that, and we've got a one-handed adjustment on that. Unfortunately, I'll show that probably not whilst I'm going along because I've got the camera here, which makes it difficult to reach that. I didn't think of that. So I want to kind of look at that and see what the protection is like, talk about the comfort because the bodywork has changed, the seat has been restyled, but obviously some of the bigger changes are that extra 7% of torque in the low to mid-range. And obviously the fact now that the DCT is linked to the IMU, which is what you find on the current Africa Twin model. What that does is obviously sharpens up the performance of the DCT. It can now tell when the bike is pitched or turned or leaned. All of that feeds into that. Now that the change is quicker, there would be occasions where there was a little bit of a lag, so you would have a slightly hesitant change. They've fixed that, they've changed where the sensor sits, and so it should all be nice and slick. Things like comfort and that I'll talk about later on in the day. Obviously I want to get some more mileage on that. So the first impressions of the screen are very good. It's in its highest position at the moment, and with a combination of these kind of fins I've got good protection. I'm getting a little bit of noise around the helmet, but it tends to be hitting me kind of just on the outside of the shoulders. Outside of that, I can ride quite easily. We're doing 110 kilometers an hour at the moment, 120, and I can ride with my visor open pretty comfortably. A little bit of wind flutter, but other than that, so far so good. And the fact now that you've got that one-handed control is a massive improvement over the other side. So for the first of the changes that I wanted to look at, which is that screen, it's a big tick. The one thing that you definitely notice is the handling. Obviously 17-inch wheels on this, it just carves through this stuff, and the DCT has been behaving itself as you'd expect. It just gets better and better every update, and it's the best it's ever been at the moment, and I'm quite happy sticking this in Sport 2 and just concentrating on the curves, enjoying a bit of the scenery, and having fun. It is a lot of fun on these roads. The gear selection is just, it's spot on all the time. You never find yourself in the wrong gear coming into a corner or exiting a corner. And you've got the manual overrides anyway, so if you leave it in sport mode, even if I was to drop it down to second from here, it doesn't take it out of that mode. It stays in it and it will just continue to go back and change as and when. And obviously you can run it in full manual if you want to. But when the DCT is this good, why bother? And I think it's a much better handling bike than people would give it credit for. A lot of people, I think, look at it, yeah, so it's a Honda NT1100, it's a bit dull, it's a bit boring, it's a bit bland. And actually that is not the case. The bike will get a wiggle on, but it handles very nicely indeed. The brakes are good, a lot of feedback, very confidence inspiring. What a beautiful backdrop. So I always enjoyed the NT1100. I just had those few little niggles. The screen was a pain if you wanted to kind of move it up and down, and the fact that the DCT was good, but the fact that there was no IMU control on it, I think that's made a difference. Certainly, definitely made a difference. So they've taken what was already a very good bike, and I think have just made it even better. It is a very, very good touring bike. So I thought it makes sense as well to give you a little bit of a ride with the screen in its lowest position. It doesn't actually feel that much different. We'll see when we get onto the kind of highway motorway stretches. But I've got a nice amount of airflow coming through, but I'm not getting any really annoying buffeting, or not even buffeting, or even annoying wind noise. So it may well just be that you only really need that screen in its highest position when it's raining to keep the water off you. I was kind of expecting that to be really loud and noisy, but actually I think I prefer that to it in its highest position. So yeah, even at speed, the wind blast from this screen in its low position isn't too bad at all. I'm quite surprised at how good this is. Not far off riding a naked bike. I do like the styling of the bike now. I think it's just that little bit sharper, and it does feel different. Sitting inside, it feels a little bit more sculpted, so you feel like you've got a nice big wide area here. You can tuck your knees in behind that, but from the front it doesn't look as sort of fat and chubby as the previous model. I think adding those sculpted lines helps. There will always be people that don't like the look of the bike and they think it's boring, whatever it may be, and that's fair enough. But I think it's quite a handsome looking thing, and I really do like this blue colour. The new styling also incorporates a brand new light setup. Gone are the orange DRLs, which I'm very pleased about. They've been replaced by these white DRLs that sit at the top of the cluster. Nestled below the DRLs are individual dipped and main beam lights, and the indicators have also been bought inboard and sit in the same cluster. They're not on stalks anymore, but they are very clear and easy to see. Now, I never found the old bike uncomfortable, but I must admit the reshaped seat on this does make a difference. It feels like there's a little bit more cushioning around the back, but nice and narrow at the front still. The whole comfort level seems good. That hand, feet, bum triangle is good. You're slightly canted forward. It's not a sporty, aggressive position by any means. It's still relatively upright. So for old duffers like me with dodgy backs and creaky knees, it's very comfortable. And I think in terms of value for money as well, it's really good when you consider what's on this: cruise control, heated grips, CarPlay, centre stand, luggage. It's wanting for very little. I know there's always those people who go, well, it's a touring bike, it has to be a shaft drive, but chain maintenance on modern chains is not that tricky, and you don't of course have the added bulk and sapping of power that you get with a shaft. If shaft drive was an option, would that make a difference? Yeah, possibly. And there are always those people in the comments who say, well, I'm not going to buy this bike because it don't have a shaft drive. This is a fantastic machine, and I would quite happily ride this now back home from southern Spain, shove my luggage in the panniers and crack on north. All in all, it's a cracking machine. I really like it. There are of course a couple of niggles that haven't been fixed, one of which is the CarPlay still being wired. It seems a simple change to make that wireless, and also the requirement for it to have a comms connection. Sometimes you might want to switch your maps on, but either not be wearing a helmet with comms, you have no need for it, you just want that visual reference, and you still can't do that. That would be, for me, that would make this bike almost perfect. Outside of that, I think the niggles that I had with it have been dealt with. If you want to have a dick swinging competition and turn up at the cafe with your 170 horsepower and your Italian looks, fine, that's great. But if you want to do it all touring bike that's a lot of fun to ride, super comfortable, well kitted out, then the NT1100 has that in spades. Good work, Honda. Now, I've pretty much given you my summary and conclusions in that last riding section, but if I look at the parts of this bike that have changed and the things that I didn't like and a lot of other people didn't like about the original bike, have Honda nailed it? The biggest one is the screen. It was horrible to adjust previously. We can now do this with one hand, even when riding. That's really simple. I think the styling is much sharper. It's more comfortable, and the fact that the IMU now controls the DCT the same as it does with the Africa Twin, it's completely transformed the ride. Add on top of that the electronic suspension, and I think you have got a perfect all-round touring bike. If you've got any questions though, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. And all that leaves me to say is until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.